Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. And today, instead of talking about silver prices, market manipulation, inflation, or the gold to silver ratio, I just want to sit down and go through some of the pieces that I've recently picked up for the stack. So let's get into it. Congratulations to Wayne Hurd for getting to my comment section first in yesterday's video. I was asked recently how having people race to my videos helps my content, and YouTube actually pushes content that is engaged with as soon as it's posted more. So this game that we've created to get to the comment section first actually does help push my content. So again, thank you all for playing, and if you'd like your name in the next video, get to the comment section first. That notification bell really does help. One of the biggest misconceptions about stacking is that every single purchase has to be perfectly optimized. People get focused on premiums, liquidity, spot price, and percentages, and while all of that is important, sometimes they forget that collecting precious metals is also supposed to be enjoyable. Some pieces are bought for weight, some bought for history, some for the beauty, and some just because you connect with them personally. Those emotional connections are part of what keep stacking long term. So today I'm just going to go through some pieces that I recently added to my stack, why I bought them, and how they fit into the rest of my stack and collection. So I'll first start with this 1994 US Mint Premier Silver Proof set. The US Mint made these alongside the regular silver proof set, and I absolutely love these. One reason I've been recently gravitating towards them is because I'm finding them at the same price as regular 90% junk silver. So when you can buy government issued silver proofs at melt value, that is an incredible deal. All these proof sets have a completely different feel than the regular 90% silver. The mirror finishes, the frosted devices, the packaging, and the way that they were originally presented. There's something about them that feels a little bit more intentional. These are heavily overlooked by most stackers. A lot of people focus entirely on generic rounds or regular 90% silver because they're the absolute lowest premium possible, and I completely understand that. But when there are these proof sets sitting at that spot price, I think they become extremely interesting. These premier proof sets were made from 1992 all the way to 1998 before the US Mint started its state quarters program. So I'm going to be trying to get every single one. The next piece I picked up is this 1 ounce 3/9 fine silver dragon round from the Eagle Mint. Dragons have become one of my favorite themes in silver, not just because they look cool, although they absolutely do, but because of what they symbolize: strength, power, protection, growth. There's something timeless about dragon imagery that keeps appearing across different cultures and different civilizations. Silver pieces with dragons almost feel alive in a weird way. They don't feel generic, they feel intentional as well. And because of what dragons mean to me personally, I've been slowly building up a collection of dragon pieces. I've noticed that themed silver creates a little bit of a stronger connection than just regular generic bullion, and that matters a lot more than people realize, because emotional connection to silver tends to stay stacked. It's harder to impulse sell, and that psychological attachment can actually help people maintain long-term discipline. So I think after building a base foundation, starting to build a stack that you actually enjoy is really important. And speaking of silver that I enjoy, I've been really enjoying learning about sunshine mining and sunshine minting. Sunshine Mining is a vintage company that was started around 1979, and they switched to sunshine minting around 1990. You can see here that I have a half ounce sunshine mining silver from 1985. I think that a lot of this vintage silver has a lot more character. Not only that, but half ounce size seems to be the new 1 ounce size. Honestly, maybe even the quarter ounce size is the new 1 ounce size. As prices continue to rise, It seems like fractional silver is becoming dramatically more important over time, and it's just really cool to think that back in 1985, when this was made, this would have represented about $3 worth of silver. But today, it represents close to $40 worth of silver. This piece of silver satisfies a few of my ideas of the near future of silver. I believe that dated vintage silver is going to become a lot more popular as more people start to actually collect silver, as well as the fact that fractional silver will become a lot higher in demand as prices continue to rise higher and higher. Although, even if this half ounce sunshine mining round doesn't become insanely more popular, I'm still incredibly excited that I get to own it. Speaking of fractional vintage silver, next up I have these two 5-gram Johnson Matthey bars. Johnson Matthey is one of those names that immediately stands out in precious metals. There's just something iconic about these vintage JM bars. The simplicity, the branding, the reputation, and what I especially love about these tiny bars is how unbelievably small they are. When people initially get into stacking silver, they hear about these big bars, 5 ounce, 10 ounce, sometimes even kilo sized bars. They want the big, massive weight. But once you hold one of these tiny little bars in your hands, you start realizing how divisible precious metals can actually be. Smaller pieces have a really interesting psychological effect to them. They feel collectible, they feel detailed, and in a weird way, they almost feel like silver is more tangible because you can physically compare it to such a tiny incremental value. Now, obviously, gram bars can be a very high premium compared to large bullion, so if anyone's goal is to purely accumulate ounces, then this is probably won't make any financial sense. But not every purchase is going to be optimized. Sometimes you'll buy things just because they're beautiful or they're vintage, historically significant, or just because you like it, and that's okay. And that actually leads me to the next things I'm going to show here. I picked up several of these world coins. This here is a 2.5 guilder from the Netherlands. This is 72% silver. These coins remind you that silver was once global money, not theoretical money, not paper claims, not digits on a screen, actual silver, actual money. These silver pieces were passed from person to person across civilizations. Here I have a commemorative 5 peso from Mexico. When you hold these coins, you realize that you're holding a piece of history that survived wars, political systems, economic collapse, currency changes, and generations of human life. That perspective completely changes the way that you think about money. World silver, like these European or Mexican coins, have very elegant designs. The silver content is strong, and many of these pieces still remain relatively affordable compared to US silver. Next, I just picked up these Australian 1942 florin and 1943 S shillings. These older Australian silvers have become incredibly interesting to me because of the historic transition periods that are involved. What's also interesting is that this shilling was minted in San Francisco in the United States. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I'm sure I can call on some friends down in the comments to let me know. I do know of a friend in Australia that's a numismatist, Mativation Inc. If you don't mind letting us know what you know about those coins, that would be amazing. Then I have this 1942 sixpence from Fiji and an 1875 2 kroner from Denmark. It's amazing to think that this 2 kroner from Denmark is over 150 years old. I actually have an entire collection in a leather pouch that I keep that are all over 150 years old. So I'm going to pull that out so we could take a quick look. This is my mouse pouch. It was inspired by a YouTuber who now goes by Inefficient Stacker. He challenged a group of stackers to put 100 pieces of gold in these pouches. And I took that challenge to a different direction of stacking 100 pieces of old. So I have gold or silver that are over 150 years old, and who knows, I might even throw some copper coins in here. But this is where we are today. I'm going to be adding this 2 kroner from Denmark since it was minted in 1875, which is today 151 years old. Just think about this for a second. These silver and gold pieces existed before cars, before airplanes, before television, even before modern banking systems as we know it. And yet they're still here, still valuable, still recognized, still incredibly desirable. Holding these world silver coins completely changes your perspective on fiat currencies because governments come and go, currencies change, monetary systems evolve, but silver continues surviving through it all. And one thing I've really started appreciating is how different countries approach silver coinage. There's different purity levels, different denominations, of course, different designs, and even different monetary systems. And honestly, you begin realizing that silver itself was the universal language underneath it all. The face value changed, the governments changed, the languages changed, but silver remained. And I think that's one of the reasons that silver feels so fascinating to me, because it connects history, economics, art, and human civilization all together into one object that you can physically hold. Silver has mattered for thousands of years, and when you hold a coin from the 1800s, you can really feel that. You realize that you're participating in something much bigger and much older than yourself. And that perspective can change the way that you look at money entirely. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Go to the comment section to let me know what your favorite pickups have been recently, or if you collect world silver, vintage bullion, proof sets, or themed silver for yourself. Share the video with someone you think may enjoy precious metals, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're a long-term subscriber, thank you so much for your support, and don't forget to check out my website, josephsreserves.com, for any merchandise, zip-up bags, or It's Today Again coffee. Most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back.